do anything safely, and Less's was the closest place to go.
Do you know how far you were from there?
Several hundred yards. We were in the middle of the lake.
Okay. And prior to seeing Less's, or maybe even while you're seeing Less's, are you noticing any lights at Less's bait shop there?
Yes, I used to dock there, and there's always been a yellow flashing light to know that was Less's, and that's, I remember seeing that and looking at it and knowing that's where we needed to go.
Whether it's while you're going out to help respond to these calls for help, or whether it was earlier in the evening, had you seen fishing boats around the lake?
Yes.
Is that commonplace that there would be fishing boats while there's other boats traveling around?
Yes.
And did you see any fishermen on the shore, on the bridge?
There was a lot of people on the bridge fishing that night.
Do other fishermen carry, or did you ever see fishermen carry lanterns as well?
Yes.
Is that common as well?
Yes.
Both the fishermen in a boat on the lake and the fishermen on the shore?
Yes.
Did you recall that night when you went out to help rescue this person, whether you saw any lanterns on the shore or any fishermen on the shore at that time?
There were lanterns on the causeway where people were fishing there.
Okay. Do you recall seeing a lantern in the fishing boat?
No.
You get to Less's bait shop with Brian on the back of your boat, the victim, and what happens next?
Melissa had called 911 to let them know we were taking him there, and they kind of started slowly showing up as we were headed in, and they came down with a backboard, and we got him off the boat, and they started doing CPR on him. Well, they started doing chest compressions on him, and they took him in the ambulance and left.
What about the other guy who was standing on the wrecked fishing boat? Did you ever see what happened to him?
He came in shortly after we came in, and he was yelling, worried about his friend, and I know he got in I don't know if it was the same ambulance or not, but I know he got in an ambulance and left also.
While they're trying to get Brian up out of the water on your swim platform, did you still hear that other fisherman yelling or calling for help or saying anything while that's going on?
I know he was saying things, but it's kind of a blur because I was focused on getting him into the boat.
At what point do you bring your boat up to this rescue area where he's still in the water? Had they found Brian already in the water, or were they still looking for him?
When we were approaching them, they were still looking for him, but when I had actually got 10, 15 feet within them, they had found him.
Okay. Do you recall who found him or who was holding him or anything? Was it somebody you knew?
I did not know the person. It was a fisherman from the other boat that was there.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing or anything?
All I remember about him is he had a blue tank top on.
You were on your own boat going out to help whoever needed rescued in the lake. Is that right?
Yes.
With Melissa. Anybody else on your boat at that time?
No.
Just you two. One second.
Yes.
after you get to shore, Adam, do you stick around and make a statement?
Yes.
And do you remember who you gave that statement to?
I believe it was somebody from the sheriff's department.
Okay. And you hand wrote a statement?
Yes.
I have nothing further this time. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. That was testimony from one of the witnesses who was with the doctor before this crash happened. And Dan, it seems like, you know, there's evidence that there was some drinking and some partying going on, but it just, I don't know if it rises above the level of, or rather beyond a reasonable doubt. So what if he had a couple of beers and then had a shot? Or, you know, how, I just don't know. I don't know if they've got that charge beyond a reasonable doubt.
And I think this is the main reason the defense decided to go non-jury instead of a jury, because the jury gets more emotionally involved and they may not look at the letter of the law. They'll see a guy drinking and then driving in a way he shouldn't drive of a boat and then killing somebody and feeling, well, he has to be responsible and maybe convict. I think the defense attorneys thought, let's go to a judge so we can argue that legal concept of, well, he might have been drinking, he might have been driving erratically, but that doesn't mean he was driving in an intoxicated way or an impaired way, and therefore he's not responsible even though someone died. So that kind of nuanced argument may be lost on a jury, but they're hoping and banking on the fact that the judge would buy it.
Well, even if we knock out charge 2 and charge 3 for the drinking only, you know, the judge might turn around and say, okay, we'll throw the drinking evidence just is too mushy. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. But I think I got recklessness here, so I'm going to do a conviction on that second level felony. And that's the top charge. They only need recklessness for the top charge, and that might stick.
Recklessness and then leaving the scene, which is less important, but still it is a conviction. That would be another charge that's hard for the defense to get away from. But they'll try to argue that even though he was operating the boat in a way he shouldn't have, it didn't rise to the level of recklessness because, you know, as we've talked about, if I speed, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily driving recklessly. So the prosecution will argue there's other factors, but that's the defense argument.
You know, and I think the prosecution did do a good job of bringing in the evidence of what the speed limit is on the lake. There were pictures of the signs up. The doctor should have known that, hey, look, this is the operating standard. When you've got your watercraft out on that particular lake, these are the rules. It gets busy out there. There are a lot of fishermen out that time of year. When this collision happened, you were beyond that standard, and you should have known. I think that that's stronger evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that recklessness can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt here. I'm not so sure about the drinking. Then again, I might be surprised, or I might have just misheard or overlooked a critical piece of testimony. I hear most of it, but I always fear that one piece that I don't pick up when, for instance, we're doing a planning meeting on the side here. Yeah. You know, but the judge has heard everything.
Right, and that's why this is an interesting trial to watch, because you don't know who's going. Sometimes it's obvious, okay, the defendant committed a crime. We don't know if they're going to be convicted of all the counts, but certainly the person either committed a murder or an assault. Here, it's really unclear, even though you know he operated a boat in a way he shouldn't have. He drank before that. He ended up killing someone based on his actions. It's really unclear whether he can be convicted under the law for what he did. It makes really interesting. Next week will be really interesting to see if the defense puts on a case and what they try to say.
I would anticipate an expert about drinking or intoxication levels or something like that to say, okay, the evidence is that he consumed 3 drinks or however many drinks at this time. Is that enough to say that a man of his weight, his height, is intoxicated at the time of that crash? I mean, I can almost bet the bank account that that's going to come up out of the defense case pretty soon.
I would expect that too. It would be risky for the defendant to testify unless he is sure there are no adverse facts that aren't already out there. Because right now it's unclear, after he had the couple of beers and maybe a shot, was he drinking more on the boat? That hasn't been shown yet. But if he has to testify about that under oath and then there's some evidence to contradict him, he could get in a lot of trouble. So this is a case that you probably won't see the defendant testify unless he is very, very confident in his story, which you don't see in a lot of cases. But you're right, an expert would be helpful here for the defense.
I'd be shocked if he did testify, because the fear also would be that he trips up and he says something that triggers a medical license issue. Like if they pin him on something and try to twist it into something, or point out that it's somehow dishonest, then that could have medical license complications as well.
Or if he's asked, why did you leave the scene? There's no good answer for that. Was it because you didn't realize you hit a boat, which is consistent with intoxication? Or is it because you realized it and you were afraid that you would get caught, so you went away? there's really no good answer
There's no good answer for
Right.
that. I agree with
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
well, it's 5 o'clock. Dan Shore, former prosecutor, currently doing legal investigations for Kroll, all kinds of deep, fun, factual investigations, the kind of stuff that I like. It's good to have you here on the Law News Network.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me
Okay,
on.
come back again and see us.
I'd love to.
We're going to wrap up the day here and wrap up the week here on the Law News Network. Just a reminder that we're here from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and when we have late testimony on certain days, which we do not this week, we are here late for you. We'll be back on Monday at 9 a.m. when the Urich case out of Ohio will continue with a defense case. Also a reminder, next week we are getting ready here at the Law News Network for the parole hearing of O.J. Simpson. He's been in jail, or prison rather, in Nevada over a conviction for on a series of charges. I think there were 12 charges overall related to some sports memorabilia. He's up for parole this Thursday at 1 p.m. and we here at the Law News Network will have complete coverage all week long. You saw some pre-interviews related to the case this noon. My colleague Amy Dash talking with the attorney for the Goldman family in the original O.J. Simpson case from the 90s about whether or not once he gets out of prison, he could be on the hook for the money that he owes the Goldman family over the death of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson back in the 90s. A lot of moving parts in that case. We've got them all covered here at the Law News Network, so you'll see plenty of interviews about that next week. For now, though, this is Aaron Keller here at the Law News Network. I want to wish you a good weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday morning.